Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Ashley Holland. I'm the Director of Programs and Practices at the National Association of Counties, or NACo. In partnership with the Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy, we are pleased to host today's webinar, Counties Can Improve Economic Mobility Through Adult Literacy. This webinar is being recorded. Both the recording and the presentation materials will be available after the event. Throughout the discussion today, please feel free to use the chat function to share your thoughts, reactions, experiences throughout. If you have a question you would like our presenters to address, please use the Q&A function located at the bottom of your screen. The format of today's session will include a level-setting introduction on the economic impacts of adult literacy. Then we'll move to 3 county case examples of literacy efforts across the country. And then a moderated discussion among our county guests. I'm pleased to take a few moments here at the top to introduce our 4 expert participants, beginning with our first presenter and moderator, British Robinson, President and CEO of the Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy. British Robinson, she's a visionary leader with more than 20 years of experience leading initiatives in international and domestic health, corporate social responsibility, public-private partnerships, and advocacy and policy development. As the president and chief executive officer of the Barbara Bush Foundation for Family Literacy, British oversees the strategic direction and all operations of the public charity, which was, of course, established by former First Lady Barbara Bush in 1989. Before joining the foundation, British was the founding CEO of the Women's Heart Alliance. She also served as Senior Vice President of Innovation and Strategic Initiatives at Women for Women International, and as Vice President of Global Strategy and Programs at Susan G. Komen. She also has extensive public sector experience, having served as the Deputy Coordinator and Director of Private Sector Engagement for a U.S. presidential initiative on AIDS relief, where she was responsible for establishing public-private partnerships to strengthen HIV/AIDS initiatives. She also served at the U.S. State Department on special assignment as Director and Special Advisor to the Secretary's Office of Global Women's Issues, where she established and managed alliances and partnerships committed to advancing the rights of women and girls around the world. We're also delighted to introduce 3 county and local nonprofit leaders joining us today as our local experts. Nikki Darawala, she's the Executive Director of the Loudoun Literacy Council based in Loudoun County, Virginia. Loudoun Literacy Council's mission is to teach English communication skills and provide literacy resources to empower low-income adults and children to become self-sufficient and confident in their ability to achieve their personal and professional goals. As Executive Director, Nikki administers many educational programs and spearheads the organization's operations, management, and fundraising. Angela Hood Bogart is the Executive Director of the Flint and Genesee Literacy Network. As a Flint native, Angela has a great passion for bettering her community and a keen understanding of the challenges faced by the greater Flint area. She's devoted to using her skills to address these challenges by significantly improving literacy rates throughout the county. And then last but not least, Stephanie Anson is a librarian with Orange County Public Libraries. She's worked in the library system for over 20 years. She currently serves as the literacy supervisor for the Orange County Public Library's Adult and Family Literacy Department called OC Read. We're delighted to have the 4 of you. At this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Robinson to start the discussion.
Great, thanks so much, and good afternoon to all of you on the East Coast. On the West Coast, I would say good morning. Thank you, Ashley, and to the entire team at NACo for convening this very important discussion and conversation today. Counties really are the lifeblood of this country. They play an integral role in the daily lives of every single American, and I know the work that many of you do and your colleagues, you're really unsung heroes, so thank you for that. Thank you for your vital work. As I sit here today in Washington, D.C. at the headquarters of the Barbara Bush Foundation, I'm also a proud resident of Montgomery County, Maryland, which is a very large county in the United States. It's about 500 square miles, and it consists of 3 cities, 12 towns, 4 villages, 33 census designated places, 5 unincorporated communities. So I'm a big believer in counties, and we have one of the best school systems in the country, and so proud of that. And when you have really committed citizens and committed county workers and executives to strive for the best for their population. So first, let me just hat tip to all of you working at the county level, and thank you for what you do. As part and parcel of our conversation today, because as I mentioned, counties are the lifeblood of this country, and they really are the engine that help so much of what we do in our society sort of thrive. It's very important to kind of situate your work and dedication at the county, at the local level, in the context of this issue around low literacy in America today. Unfortunately, I want to let our guests and all of those that are participating in this webinar know today that approximately 54% of adults between the ages of 16 and 74 lack proficiency in literacy, essentially reading below a sixth grade level. It's about 130 million adults. That is staggering and stunning. Low literacy prevents these millions of adults and families from fully participating as parents, workers, and citizens in society. And ultimately, this impacts our collective economic mobility around the country and, of course, in communities. In fact, the numbers speak for themselves. As I said, 53% of adults 25 and over who didn't graduate from high school are not participating in the workforce. That is critical to the bottom line of counties and your tax base. By 2024, we know that nearly 80% of all jobs will require a high school degree, except for we have millions that don't yet have that. Federal, state, and local governments stand to gain an additional $2.5 billion in tax revenue and reduced expenses for every 400,000 adults who earn a high school diploma. This is critical. A Gallup study that we commissioned in 2019 basically shows if you can move these adults up to a sixth grade reading level, we can generate an additional $2.2 trillion, or approximately 10% of GDP and economic growth each year for the United States. That boost in literacy skills would also fill critical gaps in our workforce. You all know this well, that every day corporate executives, local businesses have a tough time finding folks who are fully literate in basic skills and digital literacy skills, and those are huge barriers to building up the workforce. Addressing literacy also, not only does it improve the workforce situation, but it really helps lift people out of poverty. We know that low literacy is a multi-generational issue. We know the numbers that it comes down actually to dollars and cents as well. We know that the average annual income of somebody at the lowest levels of literacy is just over $34,000 a year, essentially earning minimum wage. We know if they're at a third to fifth grade reading level, not basic literacy, but their average income rises to $48,000 a year. And if they can reach a sixth grade equivalency level of proficiency, their average income rises to $63,000 a year. So it's a tax-based issue, but it's also an issue of dignity and also breaking the multi-generational cycles of poverty. In addition to traditional literacy, we have huge gaps in this country at every level around digital literacy. A Deutsche Bank study found 2 years ago that the digital divide could cause about 76% of Black Americans and 62% of Hispanic Americans could be shut out or underprepared for jobs by 2045. Again, another staggering statistic where this really comes down to dollars and cents. The issue also impacts our health, in particular public health. We're in the middle of a 100-year pandemic. We know that, for example, 66 million adults could not understand most health protocols from CDC, anything from hand washing to putting a mask on. That's critical because they're essentially low literate. We also know that low literate Americans are 4 times more likely to have poor health outcomes, require hospitalization and use of emergency services at a higher rate than their literate counterparts. In short, low literacy is an issue of equity. It lies at the core of multi-generational cycles of poverty, poor health outcome, food and housing insecurity. And unfortunately, it doesn't stop with today's parents. It's passed down to their children and will continue to impact the country as a whole until we solve the problem. And in fact, when we talk about children and their parents, we know for a fact that 88% of children under the ages of 6 whose parents lack a high school diploma or high school equivalency live in low-income communities. We know from an NIH study done about a decade ago that a mother's education level is the single greatest determinant of her child's future academic success, outweighing all other factors. So that means we have a lot of work to do. If you want to take a look or see a snapshot of the literacy gap in this country across every state, you can go to our website and see our map. We've created what we call a heat map, where you can see what the literacy rates are and hopefully work with your communities and counties to help solve the problem. So speaking of, where does the county leadership come in? As I shared with all of you, approximately 130 million adults essentially read below a 6th grade level. Unfortunately, today, there's only approximately services for about 2 million adults under federally funded programs. That's not enough. There's a huge gap. And everybody on our panel today is trying to fill that gap. But we need more counties, more interested parties, more stakeholders to begin to fill the gap. And everybody working on the ground needs as much support as possible. And we believe that support starts at the local level. And in fact, so much so that this is a problem that you can't solve alone, that counties can't solve alone, that nonprofits can't solve alone. This is a grassroots and a grass tops problem. And it's one that we have to change at both levels. You know, the old saying that all politics is local. Well, we are betting on all of you, all of the members of NACo. We are betting on local communities to help move the needle once and for all around this problem. Through your local platforms like parks and recs and libraries and health departments and hospital systems and schools, these are critical channels that can help us meet people where they are. I like to say we have to meet people where they live, play, pray, and work. And we know you're doing that every day, but we need more people to do that. We know that counties across the country are doing wonderful work. So we're so excited today to showcase your work, your examples, your models, and to get more counties focused on this issue. And so with that, let's jump into your presentations. So we are going to, Ashley, you guys have got the slide there? Great, thanks.
Awesome.
And we'll start with Angela. Thanks, Angela.
Thank you so much. Like, that's so inspiring. I am convinced I am in the right space at the right time for the right cause. So good morning, everyone. I'm Angela Hood Bogart. As mentioned, I am from the Flint and Genesee Literacy Network. So like all Michiganders, right? I'm about right here in the state of Michigan. We're just north of the city of Detroit. And you may have heard of us for many different reasons. So as you can see on the screen, I have some demographics to give you a landscape of what our community looks like. You can see the population level, and you can also see the median income. I want to anchor the thoughts today around our county perspective and give you some insight as to variance between the city proper and the county as well, because we do see some shifts in demographics and we see people present somewhat differently in those spaces. But as you can see, right, throughout Genesee County, we have a 16% poverty level. In the city proper, roughly about 33% poverty level. You see the difference in those graduation rates. So on a whole, as a county, we do better about getting people to matriculate through school and to graduate. In the city, a little bit more of a challenge. And then again, when you see those employment rates, you see a slight variation. What I should share is to also give you some context that typically within Genesee County, 75% of the population identifies as persons that identify as white. And then in the county, we have about 39% that are identifying as Black or African American, a small percent identifying as biracial, and then also roughly about the same percent, roughly 5% that are identifying as Hispanic. And so then when we think about the city, those dynamics look a little differently, where the city, we see more concentration of minority folks, right, which is not atypical. But we also see the challenges concerning poverty, high school graduation, and even employment, right, at a deeper level if we were to strip that through and really look at the racial and demographic breakdown. So what you should know about our community, right? Besides the lovely bottle of water you see on the lower right-hand corner, right? Everyone knows us because of our recent issues with water as a crisis and what it looks like when communities are disenfranchised and disinvested and infrastructure is aging. But what you may not think about is also in our community, right? We, as a county, have been an innovative force in really putting systems in place. So whether that's the community model for schools that was birthed within Flint and Genesee County, or whether it was the UAW as a bargaining entity to really advocate for fair wages and resources for families. So of course, you know, we're the home of, you know, Buick as an industry and General Motors and the CRIM. But what I really like to lift up is that when you assess a county or you assess a community, if we only look at numbers, we are missing the greatest asset. And the greatest asset we have in our community are the people. It's the human asset. And so what I can't capture on the screen for you is the spirit of innovation and resiliency that is found within our community. Our organization was created in the backdrop of a concern regarding adults presenting in workforce spaces and in community college without basic literacy skills. So around 2012, Mott Community College, we're seeing students presenting in entry-level classes with some huge deficiencies concerning literacy. This caused Mott Community College's institutional research, academic supports, but also their workforce division to begin to convene partners to talk about what we were seeing in community. And it really emerged that literacy was our crisis. We had people that were matriculating through school, and although the graduation rate may have been not as dismal as what we see today, the issue was the ability to navigate a world using language and comprehension. And so this sparked other conversations, which led to some planning and some developing and some seeking of funds to really approach literacy as this multidimensional lens between reading, writing, digital literacy, health literacy, economic literacy, and then also what we see emerging is this cultural literacy. So the network was created. We are not a nonprofit. We operate solely on grant funds, and Mott Community Colleges continues to stay engaged with us as our fiduciary. So every year we're competitively seeking grants to fund this work. And so we do solicit some funds from our community development block grant through our city because the master plan of the city has identified that literacy is a key priority and a concern. So how do we do this work? As a network, we are not interested in individual activities or even coordinating activities. We use a model called collective impact, and that's ensuring that the work in community that targets literacy is aligned in strategy, aligned in purpose, so that we can have momentum in a different way. We use partners that are gathered around funding, action teams, system teams, or learning teams. And so we provide services to human service organizations within our county to drive literacy from cradle to career. And so I'm so excited to be in this space today to learn and grow with you and to see how what we're doing can support what you're doing, but also what I can learn differently so that we can enhance the services in Flint and Genesee County. Thank you for having me here.
Well, thank you for this invitation, and thank you for inviting us to participate in this call. Greetings from Loudoun County, Virginia. We are a western suburb of DC. I am a longtime resident here, and I think it's the best place on earth, whether it's you want to put it in the context of work, play, learn and grow, or whether it's a wonderful place to live. We just love, and I just love Loudoun County. We're also often labeled as the county of dichotomies. And by that, what I mean is Eastern Loudoun is a fast-growing, thriving, suburb. We're anchored by high tech and healthcare industries. And Western Loudoun is absolutely gorgeously beautiful with vineyards and a thriving agribusiness. So both counties, both parts of the county function with strong economies. We are also sometimes called the county with the highest median income per household, and yet deep, deep, deep pockets of poverty and need. And if you look at what we do in terms of residents and providing literacy, we've got about 32,000 residents who don't speak English in our county. So I have the honor and the privilege of serving as Loudoun Literacy Council's executive director. We are a nonprofit, and our 41 years has taught us that literacy is so much more than the ability to read. It is vital to the strength and the resiliency of our community. So with that in mind, we see ourselves as much more than a language instruction organization. And we see ourselves as community builders. And we are building our community with our volunteers, our staff, board, and our partnerships in the community. So, all of this coming together basically to break down that cycle, that intergenerational cycle of poverty. For us, as it was said earlier, a mother's literacy determines, where the child's academic success would be in the future, regardless of neighborhoods and zip codes and family income and things like that. And so for us, literacy begins day one with our program called Baby Book Bundles, where we provide literacy tools as well as books to newborn children. From there, we move to the Head Start and the STEP programs, where we have a partnership with Loudoun County Public Schools to ensure that our 400 plus children who are most at risk in the Head Start and the STEP programs are ready, kindergarten ready. From there, we have family literacy nights, bringing children and their families and the extended families together for reading and edutainment. Fall for Reading, our partnership with the libraries, Book Builder programs, which is our book building and making sure that children have access to and build a home library with the K through 12 grouping of children, a Sweet Dreams program, which takes place in the homeless shelters, and a literacy program there, story walks, and so much more from the family perspective. But then we move to the adult side, and ESOL or English or ESL classes are predominantly sort of our anchor adult programming, if you will. From there, we have been able to innovate with our partnerships to bring in new programs as we've seen the need. So for example, we launched School Success with Loudoun County Public Schools, a program for parents, specifically for Title I schools, but in all of our Loudoun County Public Schools, for parents who need additional interventions to be able to have successful conversations and be able to be strong advocates for their child and talk to the school administration. Our job site program is rather unique as well, where we work with local businesses in the local business community, bringing the literacy skills to the workplace itself. From there, we've got financial literacy, health literacy, citizenship test preparation, GED preparation, workforce development week, where we work with the Workforce Resource Center, storytelling, and so much more. So, as I've sort of talked about our array of programs and interventions, I think what's apparent is we use this partnership model to be able to do whatever we do. And you can call it, 3 pillars or the 3-legged stool. But for us, that partnership model encompasses the social sector, which is us as a nonprofit, the business community, and then local government in the form of the libraries, workforce resource, public schools, and others. So I am delighted to be here. I'm looking forward to questions and answering more questions as we move forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie at OC to talk a little bit about their program.
Great, thank you, Nikki. All right, my name is Stephanie Anson. I'm the literacy supervisor for OC Read. OC Read is the Adult and Family Literacy Department of OC Public Libraries, which is comprised of 32 libraries that span Orange County, California. Orange County caters to a population of approximately 3.2 million, and it's from this branch locations that the OC Read team hosts a variety of programming and outreach to meet the needs of the community we serve. Let me describe the County of Orange. Orange County is located in beautiful Southern California. It hosts the 3rd largest population in California. There are 34 incorporated cities. The county is sometimes divided into 3 regions: Northern, Southern, and Orange Coast. The northern part of the county is more densely populated, younger, less wealthy, and with higher unemployment, more renters and fewer homeowners. The southern portion is more residential, wealthier, less racially diverse, and more recently developed. The coastal region is made up of 6 cities bordering the Pacific Ocean. So according to the recent released Orange County Community Indicators 2021 and 2022 report, a family of 4 with an annual income of $89,000 or less qualifies as low income here. The California Poverty Measure measures Orange County's poverty rate at 24.3%, but the cost of living is 46% higher than the national average. A third of Orange County's children under the age of 12 live in poverty. This is higher than surrounding counties like Los Angeles, Riverside, and San Diego. The highest concentration of poverty-plagued neighborhoods are found in Anaheim, which is home to Disneyland, the county's largest employer, Stanton, La Habra, Santa Ana, Garden Grove, and Westminster. All these are located in the northern section of Orange County. So OC Read, the department I work for, was established in 1991 under the guidance of the California Literacy Campaign. That was created to reduce the high level of illiteracy in California. There are more than 100 library systems throughout California that operate under the California State Libraries, California Library Literacy Services, also known as the CLLS program. OC Read reapplies every year for funding. This is a competitive grant process requiring OC Read staff to support statistical information, budget expenditures, ongoing and prospective programming, outreach, and community partnerships. Once approved, funding is allocated and it's determined on several factors. Each award starts with a base amount of $20,000 and additional funds are added based on the number of adult learners served and the local contribution made. Funding amounts can fluctuate year to year. The grant requires OC staff to submit a mid-year and end-of-year report, maintain program guidelines for adult learners and tutors, continue professional development, and attend CLLS network meetings and trainings, and participate in one of the 8 regional cohorts. OC Read belongs to the Southern California Library Literacy Network. That's our cohort. OC Read has been offering services to adult learners for about 30 years and added on the families and literacies component 3 years ago. All literacy services are free of charge for English-speaking adults with low literacy skills. To be eligible for services, an adult learner must be 16 years or older and not currently enrolled in high school, seek literacy services themselves, so on their own, complete the intake interview in English, are assessed for basic literacy levels by an OC Read literacy coordinator, and establish 1 or more personal literacy goals. Once the learner has been assessed, the staff pair the learner with a tutor who's attended OC Read tutor training program and has passed a volunteer criminal background check. Literacy coordinator works alongside the tutor and learner to help define goals, build lesson plans, and assist with finding resources. Literacy coordinators continue to check in with the tutor and learner, mostly through the tutor's monthly reports and the learner's yearly reassessment. Learners are active participants in their own learning process and are surveyed regularly to assist programming, planning, and implementation. A few examples of programs and tutors for tutors and learners hosted by OC Read literacy coordinators include, we have a Beyond Boundaries tutoring where tutors share, collaborate, and learn from each other. We use the News for You newspaper for discussions. So learners read the current news articles to practice reading fluency, review vocabulary, and build comprehension skills. And we offer job preparedness, focusing on job search, resume building, and interviewing techniques. Another adult literacy program OC Read is a part of is WIN, Working for Inmate Literacy Now. So OC Read staff partner with OC Sheriff through a coordinator who identifies possible learners. Staff assess the inmates' literacy levels and pairs with inmates to a specific tutor to provide one-on-one tutoring in reading and writing. Statistics show that cycles of poverty and low literacy levels put some people at an increasing disadvantage. It's currently estimated that 42% of the inmates in county jails are not literate. By presenting an opportunity to education, we hope to increase their chances of employment and decreases the chances of recarceration. As mentioned, OC Reed also hosts a Family for Literacy program. This program uses the whole family approach to support the adult learner. Family is a critical component of improving literacy, not just for the adult learner, but for the whole family, and will help break the cycle of intergenerational low literacy. During the adult learner's intake, literacy coordinators gather information about the learner's family. This could include parents, spouses, children, with the overall goal to provide more consistent support to the total family. Some of the programs available to families include a variety of interactive story times, art projects and crafts, author events, book giveaways, and other activities. With the support of OC Public Libraries, OC Reed supports library staff to offer system-wide programming. So out of our 32 branches, we offer early learning and school readiness through an annual summer reading program, back to school book and backpack giveaways, a variety of author talks and reading campaigns such as Read for the Record. We offer 1,000 books before kindergarten, where parents are encouraged to read a book to their children with the goal of reading 1,000 books before kindergarten. The objective is to promote reading to infants, toddlers, and encourage parent-child bonding through reading. We have a storytime committee that's currently presenting virtual, a chapter at a time story time, baby lap sit, music and movement, and bilingual story times in Chinese and Spanish. We also have a kindergarten readiness committee that creates a monthly newsletter that includes the rhyme of the month. It includes activities, highlighted books, and a parenting tip. They also have created kindergarten readiness backpacks, which are themed backpacks containing books, toys, and tips to encourage a child's learning through play and other activities. And backpacks are available at all our libraries for checkout. We also focus on health, food, and nutrition. So we have a lunch at the library program that we work with the state. 7 of our libraries work alongside their local school districts in low-income communities to provide free and healthy lunches to children ages 2 to 18. We have a Charlie Cart committee. Charlie Carts are self-contained kitchens. We have 3 of them that go out to different locations in the county. Through this committee, we have a Taste Buds program. So families pick up a spice kit at their local branch. The kit includes a spice packet, information about the spice of the month, a recipe using the spice, and the committee also creates a YouTube video showing how to make the chosen recipe. We offer a series of food programming to celebrate cultural food diversity and family food traditions. We partner with the County of Orange Healthcare Agency to educate families about the nutrition services and healthy eating. We also offer family activities engagement. The recent one is Discover and Go. It's a nationally recognized museum pass that provides library holders with free and discounted tickets to local museums and cultural institutions. We've also built lasting partnerships with local community organizations such as the OC Workforce Development Board and OC One-Stop Centers to provide workforce development activities. In fact, today out in our parking lot is this amazing RV that people can come and meet with a counselor to do job seeking and resume updates. We also partner with Smart Horizons Career Online Education to offer Career Online High School, which is a free accredited online high school diploma and career certification program. And the Orange County Department of Education by offering on-site story times, attending their language and literacy network meetings. We've also partnered with Pretend City Museum, Head Start, and Think Together to work with programming for underprivileged and low-income children. Overall, we work tirelessly alongside OC Public Libraries Administration to identify where low literacy demands are and address accordingly. While the last 18 months have created a varying challenges, we were able to offer many new resources. We purchased vehicles equipped with Wi-Fi and sent out to low-income communities to provide broadband services, offer hotspots, and library materials for checkout. Branches acquired laptop kiosks, and OC Reed purchased iPads for learners and tutors to continue meeting when face-to-face was not an option. The staff has also offered training to tutors and learners regarding the various use of digital platforms. OC Reed found alternate ways to engage adult learners and their families through virtual programming. We've hosted cooking demonstrations, health and wellness programs, literacy-based crafts like paint by numbers, building your family tree, and poetry scrapbooking. Staff also held curbside book giveaways to help families build in-home libraries. Overall focus here is to break the cycle of illiteracy by offering opportunities of positive learning to the adult learner, parents, children, and families. Our commitment is reflected in the many programs and service offered and to increase the outreach into our community and growing our partnerships. We're grateful for being here and thanks for giving us the opportunity. I turn it back over to British.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie, for that terrific overview, and Angela and Nikki. I think, the through line here is you all are absolute models of family literacy and looking at the problem and this massive concern that we have, not in one county, but in all of our counties across the United States, in every state. Again, if you go to our map, somebody asked a question in the chat, and sort of how did you figure out that literacy was a problem? One step is to go right to our map, but also to the Department of Education and their clear national statistics, evidence-based information that clearly tells you what the literacy rates are and what the challenges are in various communities. So I really want to just give a shout out to all of you. You all talked about multi-generational. You all talked about this partnership model. You all talked about a collective impact approach. You are clearly working not in silos, but you are working across your counties, across multi-sector, whether it's the health sector, the museum sector, the workforce sector, private sector foundations. So hats off, because that's the approach that we need to take nationally. We need to see this approach that all three of you described in every county, in every state, in every major city or metropolitan statistical area. And we show again that the problem is everywhere. It is Black, it's white, it's brown, it's Native. We have issues on our reservations. It's everywhere. It's rural, it's urban. So it's not one thing, and you all are doing such an incredible job of tackling that. And speaking of tackling it, one question I have for all of you, and maybe Angela, I'll start with you, and then I'll ask Nikki and Stephanie to jump in, is this supply and demand question. There is, as I articulated from the macro level, from the US level, but also in your own jurisdictions and counties, is that you're doing your best at creating that supply, the availability of services, but you also there's a lot of demand. Can you speak to, what is your supply? How many people are you serving? Are you meeting, do you have enough supply? What's the demand look like? Are you able to meet that in the community? And if so, how? And if not, what would it take to meet that, to meet this situation?
What
Angela,
a lovely question. What a lovely question. So in short, no, right? We are not able to meet the demand. And I'll tell you why I say that. So currently we're working at a table actively with over 40 partners every month that are touching literacy, one spectrum or another. It gets a little more nuanced because we have some partners that are really focused on that 0 to 5 or K-ready, right? Third grade reading, adult and workforce activities. So we are touching over 5,000 members of our community regularly. I say we're not meeting the demand because to be able to really provide intensive support as needed, we need more. We need more resources. People need access. But I want to lift up a concern here is the awareness and the advocacy, right? Because when adults disconnect from learning, it is not that people don't want to learn. It is not that people don't want to be successful. But that disconnect tells us that somewhere along the way, the interactions were not conducive. And so people have disconnected because they've had negative experiences. And so we have to build trust and rapport for people to engage in settings that honor the way those people present, right? So that could be in regards to poverty, that could be gender issues, it can be access. It could be the time and the availability of services, right? So I think as a nation, we have to really grapple with how we approach honoring the voice of the people we're here to serve, and that we're flexible and nimble, right? To modify our service delivery to meet the needs of the person we're here to serve. And that should be, and you mentioned the cycle of poverty, right? It should be with a lens of, if we're touching children, right, and helping children be kindergarten ready, then what is our approach to how do we advocate for that parent to step into that space and feel empowered instead of judged, right? And so there's a lot of work with cultural competencies that's nestled into education norms and how we engage around learning.
Absolutely. Stephanie, you want to jump in on that? Supply and demand?
Sure. I agree with Angela completely. The flexibility, we definitely need that. I noticed a lot of our learners, they're busy with 1, 2, 3 jobs. They don't have the time to necessarily meet at a library to work on literacy skills, to even take their children places. I wish we could connect better with the school districts to bring in the services that they need, but they're busy and overwhelmed too. So it's something we're working on to try and figure out how to meet that demand at all levels.
And I think, and meeting that demand at all levels, as you stated earlier, Stephanie, is that holistic approach, parent, child, and it's that family literacy program. I think one of the things that's happening in our communities at all levels, national and local level, is we're bifurcating the services. And I think what you all point out is that we are most successful when we combine those services. So we're looking at that child and that parent together, as a whole unit, to lift them up and lift them out of poverty, or break that cycle of poverty, or break the low literacy that's multi-generational. And I think that is a through line that all three of you hit upon. Nikki, you wanna touch on this, and then we'll move on to some other thoughts. Thanks.
Absolutely, thank you. And I think the last thing that you said was really, really important, because we treat our clients and the work that we do in the community as a unit. So it's not just the child, but the child who might be in a Head Start program attending a literacy program, but the adult parent who might be in one of our ESOL classes, for example. So we do that. And I think what's really important, going back to your question of supply and demand, the need, it starts with the need. 32,000 people in Loudoun County who don't speak English. On average, every year, we serve about 500 at the most in our ESOL classes. That's about 8%. We're just not even scratching the surface. We are not even scratching the surface. And we live in this nonprofit paradigm. We're not the county, we're not local government. We are a nonprofit working in partnership with our wonderful county government and others. But unfortunately, we live in this reality of do more with less. And we're trying to chip away at that with getting creative about the funding sources and other things. But I think one of the other things is, rather than just look at it in terms of the numbers and how much the demand, we've also tried looking at it. One of the things that we do is we give books to children so that they have a book at home and they can build their home library, because it makes a world of difference. And we give out about 15,000 books every year to children in the community. And we worked with GIS and did, basically what we're calling book deserts, and a book desert map, just like there's food deserts, there's book deserts. And it's really startling, the number of areas where children don't have it. So we have, going back to what Angela was saying, you've got to meet people where they are. We built that model into our system. And our programs sort of, we really did a 360 on our programs. And what we did was we looked at it from 3 important factors and features. First is accessibility, and is it place-based? So in order to do that, we started bringing programs. Transportation is a big issue in our county, a lack thereof. And so we brought programs to where the residents who would need our services are. We partnered with homeowners associations, senior living centers, you name it. I mean, we were in their community centers, the libraries, of course, schools, and we started providing all of our programs, affordable housing, apartment complexes, and other things. So bring the program to where they are. The second thing was provided on their schedule. And I think what we did was we moved classes from just being in the evenings to weekday classes, evening classes, weekend classes, daytime classes, and really sort of put up, developed our tutoring programs so that we could do one-on-one for anybody who was not able to juggle 2 jobs and do this. And the third thing is proficiency levels. Usually when you're talking about 1, 2, or 3, especially when you're talking about ESL classes, you're talking about beginner, intermediate, and advanced. We broke it down to 5 and then broke it down further to 7. So we've got 7 different levels that we provide on, because there's the beginner, low intermediate, and the intermediate, low advanced. And so you've got to be able to meet them where they are and be able to provide it at all those levels. And of course, I'd be happy to talk about COVID, because everything and the impact that has had in terms of supply and demand too.
Right, absolutely. Well, let me shift gears a little bit here for anybody can jump in on this, but we've been in COVID, and we know that's affected many of your programs and how you move to virtual. For us at the Barbara Bush Foundation, we are bullish on technology. You just talked about place-based programming, but we believe we've all had to shift to kind of virtual or hybrid or those sorts of things. We can talk about that, but how can tech also help meet the supply and demand crises? And we think if we can prove some tools worthy of the adult learner, we're not there yet. We don't think the field's there yet, but we're willing to put in our investment to test some things out so that we can partner with the 3 of you and others, in the future, maybe over the next year, because how in the world are we going to all cumulatively meet the need, either at our local level or nationally, if we don't figure out how we have more access to services and actual services? So we're hoping that things like gaming and apps and even AI and VR that we're investing in is something that we'll be hopefully partnering with all of you and any other counties or nonprofits that are interested in the future. But let me shift too, because this is about, I talked earlier about the multi-generational pack, folks that are low literate are working low wage jobs. If we move them up wherever they are, they're going to make more income and ultimately be able to take care of their family. How are you all? I think you all are doing such a good job of connecting to safety net programs, but how are you intentionally connecting the adult literacy issue to your county's broader kind of economic mobility efforts or workforce efforts? Maybe Stephanie, you can kick us off, and then I'll ask others to chime in, because this is really important now, particularly that we're trying to recover from COVID. It's a double whammy for folks in the low wage sector. Stephanie?
We have a lot of adult learners that actually make their goal to find a new job or move further up in their job position. The county identified that, especially with the need for people losing their jobs during COVID. So we offered programming to have job searching workshops, to turn around and update resumes, where we'd get people coming in to show how you dress for an interview, how you answer questions for an interview. The county actually put money together, like I said, to purchase these RVs where people can show up. They get a swag bag that talks about how to do all these things, how to search for jobs, how to write your resume. They get to meet with a counselor one-on-one on their own time. The RV sits at one location all day long for them to make an appointment, to stop in, whatever they need to get them back on their feet, to find resources for job searching. Right. I wish that we had a better way of reaching the community to let them know that these services are there. Mm-hmm. We keep trying, and that's where we keep hitting the wall.
And that would be an area that is an obstacle, you would say, Stephanie. I mean, to this work, it's a critical area, and I suspect everybody's nodding as well.
Oh yeah, we use social media. We send out flyers. I mean, I don't know how else we can do it except knocking on doors. Yeah.
Angela, you're going to jump in on that.
Absolutely. So we're a bit of a smaller community, I suspect, right, than some of the other counties, but for us, it's relational, right? Families are presenting somewhere, and when there's trust developed, right, needs emerge. And as needs emerge, there can be this connection to other resources. So what our approach, so we convene some professional learning communities and some collaborative action networks. And what that is right, we have system level partners that are sitting at tables with community programs, and every voice at the table is equal, right? So there's a social capital expectation there. But in that space, right, these partnerships emerge where we hear, right, parent engagement specialists at the local pre-K program saying, I've got parents that need employment, and we have workforce partners at the table that are saying, we got jobs that we can't fill, right? So there's something magic that happens with community when we create the right spaces, because gaps get addressed and bridges are built. And so at that space, and you know, it's not lost on me that, again, my community college is our fiscal sponsor. And so we are technically under the workforce and economic development umbrella. So we are able to be a ready gap buster to connect people to services and say, you know, in September, we convene these meetings every Wednesday called a partnership power hour. And so we took the Aspen Institute illustration for 2Gen, and we hosted a session where we had an hour just for partners to connect virtually and talk about the programs that they offer and connect families to those programs with a warm handoff. Because when we have vulnerable families and we refer them into the abyss with a phone number and email that's not responded to, it creates further injury, right? So we needed to be sure that we build relationships so that when I send my family to you, I know they're going to be received with the same care and diligence that I would give them. So there's a trust that has to be built in community when we talk about referring at the same level and quality of service and follow through.
Yeah. I'm just going to say amen to that, Angela. Nikki, you wanna pick up on that as well, and then I want to make sure we have a few minutes for questions, and I want to talk about programming and advice. So go ahead quickly.
Absolutely, thanks. You know, trust and being that trusted source is really, really important. That's what we build our entire program on. A couple of different things. One is within our classes and our curriculum, we do include mock interviews. And one thing that's really important for English learners is feeling confident on the phone or in person to be able to make a presentation or to have that job interview, that first foot in the door, and be able to talk. And so we do a lot of preparations, very creative ways of doing it through mock interviews and other things. But I think what's really important is our partnerships, going back to our partnerships within and our framework within the county. Loudoun Workforce Resource Center is an extremely important partner to us. We work very closely with them, the chamber and others, the economic development, the community college, and we come together on things like Job Prep Express, Hire Loudoun, and the whole month of September, which is Workforce Development Month, where we provide these workshops. We are providing training. We are encouraging, we are advocating, we are building up people so that they feel confident and ready to step out there. Also of really importance is our job literacy program itself, where we are bringing these programs working with businesses. So this is a rather unique program where we work with local businesses. We understand what their need is for their workforce. And then we provide programs and a curriculum directly related to it to be able to bring either their employees to a level where they are comfortable and confident in the work that they're doing and able to communicate up and down the stream at work. So for example, one of the businesses that approached us sort of cited a NAM study which said 40% of companies like us are saying that we cannot provide new productivity initiatives because our employees can't read and can't follow instructions. Exactly. And this is a large global, it's a large publicly traded global company that's located, manufacturing company that's located in our county. And so we actually worked with them and developed a curriculum for manufacturing, safe handling and issues like that, and actually worked at it, going back to my issue of on their schedule, worked at it, and we provided 3 different shifts at the company's headquarters, local, so that they're coming out of a shift and then they're staying on for one of our classes. And so we had to do this to be able to provide to them. So I think it's really important to be open to be able to do these kinds of programs.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to address a question that's in the box, but we are almost out of time. If I can ask you guys to take 30 seconds, be super disciplined. I'm going to ask you 2 questions all in one. And I'm going to start with Stephanie. Just quickly to give advice to other colleagues and peers on the webinar. How are you being financed, and are you using any of the American Recovery Plan dollars? If not, what are your other sort of main streams of funding? And then the second thing is, one piece of advice would you give those as part of the webinar looking to expand adult or family literacy programs? Okay. And I'm going to say, go, Stephanie.
First off, our funding comes from the California State Literacy Library Services. So we don't have any funding for the American Recovery Plan Act. Our library system has not received any funds there. As for advice, I feel that being an adult learner, somewhere the school has failed you. You don't want to sit next to somebody with a book open. You need different, exciting ways to learn. So our big one is food literacy, offering digital literacy, programs that encourage learning without the concept of learning. Games are a great one.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. Angela, go.
So we are competitively tap dancing for grants every year. And I hate to say it, right? Some of my focus should be on other community issues, but I find myself in the space where I'm concerned about sustainability. And so we are always looking for funding to provide programs, and that changes every year. So that's an issue. I've heard of these ARP funds. I've not seen any of them manifest through municipalities to actual drive literacy programs locally. Stay tuned on that. When it comes to advice, right? Be kind, be human, be present, right? It's not like the power of who we are and what we present, right? This resiliency, our willingness to connect, because at the end of the day, it's all about relationships, and it's about meeting people in their humanity and realizing that I might be able to teach you how to read, but there's something that I can learn from you, and being a humble learner forever, right? Just forever. I'm a lifelong learner. And so keeping that space, because it removes the power dynamic. And that is what is critical, that we interact on a more simplistic level, engaging people as human beings, and that we don't have a hierarchy on the value of human beings.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Nikki, 30 seconds.
It's always challenging when you ask a nonprofit about funding questions. But we at Loudoun have the Loudoun Human Services Network, and our Board of Supervisors has been very supportive in terms of a human services grant process, which is a competitive grant process. Of course, there can always be more funding, but they have always been extremely thoughtful about the impact and the value add that we bring to the county. So yes, we've been privy to CARES Act funding and to ARPA funding. In terms of advice, I would say if you're a county that has not yet made that leap, please, you've heard some wonderful folks talk about it, please go for it. If you've started that, go for it in a partnership model. And for counties like mine, where we've been doing this for a while, let's innovate. Let's get to that next level. Let's move it from being transactional, where somebody wants a service and you provide the service. We have a great INR, information and referral and resource type of program, but let's move beyond that. Let's make it transformative. Let's talk about how are you empowering people? Maybe even do for English language learners, do a one-on-one on basic local government and how that works. And get their voices heard, get them at a seat at the table. And that's how you empower people. It goes beyond the reading to including them in being part of the fabric of our community, because that is what it's all about. The diversity and the communities that come together in Loudoun make Loudoun rich. And I think that's really important.
Yes, absolutely. Well, you guys are phenomenal. We are exactly at time, and I know the NACo folks have a policy. We want to kind of stay right on point. I think the big takeaway here is I think you guys sort of answered many of the questions or attempted to answer them, where you've offered your emails and folks can follow up with you all directly. And that was actually the point of today, was to be able to share some incredible models that others can look to, try to replicate, get advice, get counsel. I think we've also been able to say, here's the big picture problem. This affects all of us, every state, every county, every major city in the United States. And we really have to get after it. And I can't think of three better models than the three of you and the work you're doing on the ground. These are textbook programs that can be replicated, pieces or parts or in whole, in other areas of the United States. And from our perspective, that's what we'd love to see. And more importantly, we would like to partner with all of you and anyone that's interested. You can contact me through NACo, but also we're happy to look at all kinds of ways that we can partner and support the work that you're doing, because that's what we're about as a national organization, is really supporting people on the ground. It's grassroots and grass tops. But this work can't get done if we don't all work together. So grateful, filled with gratitude. You guys actually lift me up, because you can get sort of depressed when you look at those national statistics, and you're doing, Barbara Bush was our founder, our former First Lady, and everything you said when I read the archives when I started here is exactly what you're doing. What you're doing was her vision for an America where everyone can read, write, and comprehend so they can navigate their lives with dignity. And that's what you do every day. And that's what this is about. And so on behalf of the foundation, we thank you, and we're grateful for NACo for having me moderate, and we look forward to partnering with you all. And happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Back to you, Angela. Ashley, thank you. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day. We'll be in touch.